On Sunday's video, we went over a likely move towards 67 to 68,000 bucks for Bitcoin. On that bounce attempt, however, it was likely a trap. In this case, Bitcoin rejecting from just above 67,000 bucks, and the trap has been sprung, and what essentially to expect next, as well as potentially, if this happens, I'll buy. I'll buy some Bitcoins, or at least great YouTube clickbait thumbnail title, whatever the hell. Anyways, let's jump right in this one, starting off with the content of the day. And basically, as long as this criteria is met, there is still risk to the downside, especially in the more immediate, I'd say like intermediate term. But as we'll go over, there is an opportunity at the end of this, which probably comes in the next week or two. Anyways, first things first, daily time frame stochastic oscillator continues to remain positioned to the downside. That was our sort of like North Star to be looking at for, hey, this is probably not the bounce that you're looking for. This is probably a trap, and in this case, it does remain to the downside as long as Bitcoin is closing below 70,500. That is also going to be consistent on the 2-day time frame as well, which did close last night at 70,500, positioned as well for a 2-day time frame stochastic momentum. By the way, there is a nice little trend line regression coming in from these last few lows over here. Perhaps that might be indeed where we get the next like real bounce, if you will, a potential bounce that might actually reverse the overall trend. From there, the 5-day time frame is also going to be positioned to the downside as long as Bitcoin is below 73,000 bucks. And of course, the weekly hasn't changed, but just for reference, also positioned at 70,500. So we see that 70,500 number come up several times here, actually. And I would say that that is probably going to be a good pivot going onwards and forwards here for the higher term timeframes, as long as Bitcoin's below corrective times. If we start to see Bitcoin close above that region on these higher term timeframes, especially a weekly, it's going to be a damn good indication that it's upside yet again. The heavens once again align for Bitcoin. Now, I would like to take a second to say that if you find this autistic technical analysis and statistics channel valuable, please do consider like, subscribing. I just noticed that over the past couple of videos, when I've actually said that, the results for this channel, they've been increasing a lot. So that's been actually very, very helpful. Anyways, I want to get into I suppose the most important part of this video, and it is this. It is to do with the weekly stochastic oscillator. As you can see right here, it is going to very likely close below the critical zone being at the 80 read for the weekly stochastic oscillator. Now, why is that relevant? Well, as you can see over here on this particular pane, I have marked off all of the prior times that we've seen it cross the downside on CME over the past 5 years. In fact, I think, this is basically all of the times that we've ever seen. And in this case, we can see that of those times that we've seen, that has essentially marked off where most of the major lows have come in on general uptrends. Now, there have been a couple times where it did actually reverse the overall trend. That was namely at Bitcoin's current prior all-time high in November of 2021. And the time before that was, right around here in May of 2021. So both leading towards, some pretty severe downturns. One of them, obviously, like a much more severe downturn. Oh, and then also, of course, this one over here as well, the highs of 2019. But in general, macro uptrends, assuming that the market is not reversing for the long term, which I don't think that it is, this has been a pretty damn good basing area in terms of price, not necessarily timing, although in a lot of cases actually did do a decent job of timing as well, for Bitcoin to put in the next major low and work its way upwards and onwards. Now, we can see that even on this iteration over here, which is more nuanced iteration in May of 2023, it did get it pretty damn good in terms of price, but in terms of time, from the time that signaled off to the time that Bitcoin really got going, that was half a year. So, if Bitcoin were to stall in this region for about half a year, I'd say that should be very, very good for Bitcoin long term, suggesting that this market cycle does trade much higher than what I'm currently thinking, and also for much longer. But if that doesn't happen, if we get something like this, in March of 2023, or like this, the mid-cycle correction, the mid-rally correction in September of 2021, or this one actually did kind of base off for a little bit of time as well. But those would be, greater indications that we're probably going to see Bitcoin have a more explosive move in the more near term, but this cycle will probably end before 2024 if you do see something like that happen. As you can see over here, this is actually a very interesting iteration in June of 2020 because it is similar, not in terms of, or it's actually right here to be exact, to be precise. It's not, it's very similar to our current iteration in the sense that one, we have this stochastic momentum signal. And then two, when was this? This was June of 2020. This was around the halving, the last halving actually, a little bit after, but similar sort of analysis right there. So in this case, what are we looking at? Well, we've actually not seen this close below the critical zone just yet. It very likely will at the end of this next period, which this is the weekly on CME, which means that it will close on Friday. So Friday is when this potentially does become actionable in terms of, in terms of like price point, not necessarily timing, because as we've seen, some of these, in this case, 6 months, in this case, about a month, this case, about another month, timing, not necessarily the same thing, but ultimately, it would be an indication that Bitcoin probably in terms of price has the next major low in. Of course, that correlates incredibly well with everyone's favorite event, the halving. The halving's going to save us. The volume's going to save us. I saw a great comment in the Discord earlier today. Just waiting for volume. and this thing's going up. It's like volume can also be, selling as well, sir. Anyways, maybe an inside joke for the people out there. Okay, cool. So yes, we've gotten through that. Still pressured down as long as those conditions are met. I do want to say in the very, very short term, Bitcoin probably does attempt for another bounce relatively soon, but again, I don't really consider anything like super interesting as of right now, especially until the end of the week. Until the end of the week, I'm not going to say that the low is for sure in or anything like that. There still is risk to the downside. And even after the end of the week, I mean, Bitcoin can still trade maybe a little bit lower, but probably not that much lower, realistically. Anyways, okay, yes, so we've gone through that. Let's get into the daily statistics right over here. It is Tuesday, and Tuesday is basically a coin flip for Bitcoin with all of Tuesdays from the time measured between the beginning of 2023, the beginning of this bull market till present date, have shown about 52% have closed positively in that time frame. So about 48% closed negatively. So basically a coin flip right there. What's more interesting in this case is that on the times that it did close positively, did return almost 2% on average, and on the times that it did close negatively, lost about 1.75% on average as well. And in this case, we kind of already seen this move play out. To the upside, 2% would look like, actually, no, we have not. 2% to the upside would look like somewhere around 64,600-ish, and 175 to the downside would look like kind of the low of the day already. So 62,300. Do I think that Bitcoin goes lower today? Probably not. I think that we probably see in the low for today. Maybe Bitcoin tries a bit of a rally, could trade up into the 64s, but not super interesting right here. I think that today's going to be more or less a rangy day, if you will. Anyways, moving on from there, I do want to get into the daily HPDR bands. Again, another thing suggesting that, Bitcoin probably tries for a bounce from this region, is that Bitcoin is once again basing off of the bottom side of the 786 level, which is the same level that it's been based off for the last 1, 2, 3, 4 days. It's probably more likely to attempt for a bounce here. Top side of the 61.8 level is 65,150. So I don't think that things trade all the way up there at this exact moment or today, but more or less range bound. Let's say that Bitcoin were to break the 786 level to the downside and close below there. Again, 61,800, let's call it, basically the low of the day. Then yeah, at that point, I suppose I would be looking for the next area of interest somewhere down around here, $59,000. And I do still think that that's probably, if everything kind of pans out in the way that we've been looking at for the past week now, I do think that $59,000 is just at the outset, probably a good level to be looking at for Bitcoin if it does get down around there. Again, it can spend some time around there as well, but in terms of price, probably close to the lows if I had to guess as of this exact moment. Anyways, so yes, this is really just, and also I should say that the daily 55 exponential is coming in, 61. So, you're probably going to see a bounce attempt from here. Does Bitcoin trade a little bit lower after that? Yeah, I do think so. Anyways, whoops, wrong time frame. Anyways, the main message that I want to be having on this channel as of right now is that, hey, patience. If you're looking for a long-term buy for Bitcoin, I don't think I don't think doing it before the end of this week, at least Friday minimum, is wise. Again, we do have the halving coming up basically on Friday/Saturday morning. And, at that point, we really haven't seen like in all past iterations for Bitcoin, the low has either been on the exact halving or a few weeks after the halving as well. Now there's only 3 prior iterations of this, to be fair, but it's the best we can do in this case. I mean, it's the only data that we really do have. So again, even if you're the most bullish of bullahs, I do think that, especially with that first chart that we looked at for today, the weekly stochastic momentum for CME, minimum Friday, probably sometime into next week. Do we see some ebbs and flows into then? Do we see a move, a try below $60,000? Yeah, I think that would actually be a little bit likely. But again, I'm going to keep on coming back to this chart over here until we're, out of the woods, if you will, and suggest that, hey, Bitcoin below $60,000 is likely a long-term opportunity. It's very likely a long-term opportunity. The reason why I say that is because I don't think that this market cycle is over just yet. I do think that this one will go into probably around the end of this year. Worst case scenario, best case scenario, it trades sideways between 50 and 70 for a few months, maybe even half of a year, and then sets it up for continuation, maybe into deep 2025. But basically, wait. That's what I'm trying to say. Wait. Fucking wait. Have a bit of patience. Be a monkey boy. Be a goddamn monkey boy. Put your fucking thumbs and fingers up your bunghole and call yourself Mr. Monkey, because it's monkey boy time. It's fucking monkey boy time. For the love of God, just be a damn monkey boy right now. All right. I think that's probably good enough for me. We're 11 minutes into this video. That's all good on my side. Just looking at my notes, there's some funny shit in there that I forgot to mention, but whatever. Just wait until the damn halving for at minimum. Okay, and also I should probably talk about, okay, look, what if I'm just completely wrong about this shit and Bitcoin is bullish as fuck? How would I at least know that I'm wrong to wait and it should just be buy? Look, if Bitcoin pops back above about 70,000 or 70,500, those higher term time frame stochastic momentum pivots, okay, fair enough. Bullish as fuck, I suppose, in the more immediate term. We do see that the median also on the HPDR bands is coming in around $70,000 as well. So a lot of things can influence at that region. As long as Bitcoin's below, all bounces are that, just bounces before likely attempts lower. With I don't really know how much more downside there is, honestly. $59,000 is an obvious area. Below there, I guess 53 to 55 is where I'd be looking towards. But one thing before the next, of course, and I think a bit of patience is just going to be necessary in this region. What's very interesting to me is just seeing how heftily the altcoins have sold off during all of this. And actually, now that we are here, I'm curious what Coinbase is looking like. Didn't really plan to look at this one, but yeah, looking at Coinbase, I think come a little bit lower here before it tries for another base. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's video. As always, I want to wish you the best. Take care. Much love. And fuck you. And see you tomorrow.